character, which is really germane to when we get to the story about what happened to Chance and his intellectual property that he sent to a huge comic corporation.
That would be Marvel Comics.
I bet the Penguin had something to do with all this, didn't he? No,
That's
probably
so.
But,
You know, so then there was also Wiz Comic Books, who published the first Captain Marvel,
Shazam,
who became Shazam.
correct.
And so and then what wound up happening is movie serials came about, and I know that Al and Tom can discuss.
I
these
love
Superman
cereal. I had
and
some
Batman.
Count Chocula the other day, and it was only $2 a box from Walmart. Oh, we're not talking about the same kind of cereal, are we? I'm sorry.
That's one of the things
I got confused because me and Al were over here talking about other things because we're not real knowledgeable about the comic genre. And Al brought up, I ate a bowl of cereal the other day. It was real soggy. I'm sorry. Continue.
Well, I do appreciate in October because they do. That's when they bring out the Count Chocula and Frankenberries.
Blueberry.
I think I still have a box sitting on my.
Yeah, they were all on sale for $2 a box at Walmart. All the flavors.
This year. I usually buy those every year. And
I can never find the werewolf one. The like Fruit Wolf or whatever.
Oh yeah, Fruit Brute.
Fruit Brute. Yeah.
It was
I can never
knockoff.
find that one. I can never. Find
He didn't make it. He didn't make the cut. So, and then just getting back to the history of comics, in World War II, comic books were huge at spreading the word and patriotism. You had Captain America punching out Adolf Hitler on the cover of Captain America 1 in the 1940s, and
I love the stuff where you see like Adolf Hitler in the comic book genre because it was such an interesting way to, I guess, reclaim it at the time. I recently purchased a Captain Marvel, and it's got this full page ad for buying war bonds, and I thought that was such a cool thing where they were taking younger people and involving them in the war effort, which is why so many comics from that time frame are so rare because you had all these paper drives. So they had like rubber drives and metal drives. And so it was like, all you patriot children out there, go on your paper drives and help the troops. And so a lot of these early comics became part of the war effort, which is why a lot of them are so rare.
Those are called the Golden Age of comics.
Correct. Golden Age.
And
because that's what they did. They didn't realize it then that those wonderful genre of comics. I mean, they were very patriotic, and they were literally burned up or recycled in some way back then. And you had all these superhero type folks, battling Tojo and Hitler and Mussolini and all these guys. It was great. They were great to see, and they're all reproduced. They've reproduced them all in these new hardback forms, so you can actually at least get to see them again in their glory, full color, etc. That's if you got the money.
Al, do you remember any of these movie serials with Batman and Superman? Did you see those, or were you not around then? Or?
No, I was. When did the first one come out, Tom?
Well, they came out in the 30s. I mean, Batman.
No, I wasn't around then.
Batman came out in the 30s, and Superman followed shortly thereafter.
Superman was.
I'm more familiar with the Superman
Yeah,
series.
and Superman was Kirk Allen, of course.
Yeah,
and
I met him one time.
Yeah, and I was there too. I got a picture of my son Christopher, Kirk Allen, giving him a big hug. But the sad part is the people of that genre, whether it's Batman, Robin back then, or especially Kirk Allen, who was the first official film. I'm not talking about cartoons, I'm talking about film, Superman. He's not giving any credit. And I'll give you a quick example, a little side note thing here. That's why I don't like sideshow collectibles or Tweeterhead, because they keep coming out with Superman figure after Superman figure after Superman figure. And I love Chris Reeve to death. My son was named after Christopher Reeve, for crying out loud. But it seems like every character, every other or every second or third Superman character that comes out is Christopher Reeve, which is great. But hey, how about Kirk Allen? Hey, how about George Reeves, who came out in the 50s? I mean, where are those guys? I mean, those were the guys that the people that have the money to buy this stuff, Al and my generation, maybe a little bit younger, they're going to buy those things because guess what? They've got every other Superman figure in the world. Oh, let's do one no one's got. No one's producing. Let's do a Kirk Allen figure. Let's do a George Reeves figure. I'm not sure what the legal ramifications are, but surely they can't be that great and not overcome somehow.
Kirk had a cameo in Superman the movie, the first one with Christopher Reeve. He was on the train with a young Lois Lane.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be Lois Lane's dad.
Yeah.
And Lois Lane's mother was Noelle Neal, who was in
I remember.
the
I do
TV
remember
series.
That.
She
Yes.
took over from Phyllis Coates,
Right.
who was the original Lois Lane
Right.
in the Adventures
But that's a little
of
known
Superman.
fact. You know what? I mean, you're the first one I've ever heard say anything about that. Even on Facebook, Facebook or any of the other forums that you see Superman stuff talked about all the time, no one ever mentions that.
But they cut
No
his
one
line in the
mentioned
theatrical version. It's since been released. The TV versions, the
Right.
network versions, when ABC would show feature films, they would add outtakes.
Right.
His line was restored.
Well, that's good.
But one of his lines was, "Lois, read your book." Like she sees a teenage Clark Kent running faster than the train.
I'm going to
She's
look
like-
for that clip.
And
I'm gonna
that
look
was
for
a
clip.
cut line from the little girl actor playing Lois Lane as well. It's on the DVD and Blu-ray now,
Yeah.
but back in the theatrical movie, you just saw him running and you saw a shot of Kirk Allen. That was about it.
I'm going to look for that.
So I'm jumping around here, but
I wanted to ask a question, I guess, of the group here. When we talk about the earliest superheroes, of course, Superman, Batman, Captain Marvel, as Chance pointed out, where did the whole sort of action hero, i.e. Flash Gordon, did that sort of predate the superheroes, or?
it was around the same time. And that, of course, is George Lucas's inspiration, Flash Gordon.
Well,
for
that's
Star
my
Wars and all
father.
that.
You guys, talked about like movie.
Buck Rogers was another one.
Buck Rogers. People like talk about movie serials, and that's something I always heard from my dad was, stuff like The Shadow, Flash Gordon.
Well, Flash
Buck
Gordon was my
Rogers.
favorite. I love Flash Gordon.
Tell us what a serial is, Al. What is this movie serial for those that don't
Where
know?
serials were made to run in movie theaters, and they were like 12 chapters, 13 chapters, and they would run a chapter a week, and you had to go see each movie every week to keep up with the serial.
So it had a cliffhanger ending.
Right. That's why then next week you see the next chapter, and the next week.
Would it be about the length of a Three Stooges or an R Gang?
They're about 18 minutes.
Little
Yeah.
Rascals.
They were shorts.
Well, let's listen to a quick theatrical trailer. It's very short. It's Superman. It's Superman the movie serial that was put out in 1948. The train's coming. Superman's running onto the track. The track has been separated by some criminal. He's bending it back in place. And now he's flying off via animation. The one and only Superman is what the title says. At his mightiest as a real live hero on the serial screen is what it says.
Have all arrangements for the test been completed, Doctor? Yes, Mr. Secretary. A concrete blockhouse has been built in the western desert, miles from any habitation. I'd like you to see that test, Superman. The location is here. That's about 2,000 miles away. I can be there in 30 seconds.
He could be there in about 30 seconds. So anyway, that's kind of how those serials went. They were very dramatic. This was basically a movie adaptation of the serials combined into a movie.
While we're mentioning Superman, one of the things that I think they went to a wrong direction. The original Superman, he couldn't fly. He could leap tall buildings in a single bound. And I think eventually they made the character so powerful that how do you put him in any sort of jeopardy where it's compelling as an audience member, where he can, fly 200,000 miles or whatever that just said in like a split second. He can turn back time. I think they made him too powerful. And so, like I said, as an audience member, it became less compelling because there was such a variance in his abilities. So in one comic, he's throwing a train out in outer space, but in another comic, all of a sudden he's like fighting a lion, as if that's any sort of like real challenge. So I think the earliest incarnation of Superman, to me, sort of strikes a higher resonance. What do you think, Chance?
I agree. And also, I don't want to neglect and be a chauvinist and neglect Wonder Woman, who also was fighting the Nazis. Charles Moulton created Wonder Woman. He was a bit of a sickie in his personal life. He had a very liberal relationship with his wife. Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
And the really interesting thing
Allegedly.
about that was that he was the creator of the lie detector test. And when you look at where her power with like the lasso, where she was, if you got encircled by her lasso, you were compelled to tell the truth. So there's some kind of weird psychology going on there. I guess it led this guy to develop the lie detector test or incorporate this into his powerful female character, where it's like, you must tell the truth even if you're compelled to.
And Wonder Woman, of course, my favorite is Linda Carter in television 70s. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Everybody loves Linda Carter.
But the new Wonder Woman is excellent.
It is excellent.
Played by an Israeli actor. Fantastic.
One of my favorite, sort of memories about like the Linda Carter Wonder Woman is I was just like a little bit too young to get the sex appeal of the character. And so my older brother, he was like, oh, Wonder Woman's coming on. And I'm like, oh man, Wonder Woman's lame, dude. Like, why do we want to watch that?
He's older than he was discovering his loins before.
Right. So now I get a sort of giggle out of it that he was just enough older to sort of understand the sex appeal of her costume, where I was just sort of like, Wonder Woman's lame, man. I want to watch, I'm going to listen to my like her Kiss records or something. Yeah. Well, yeah, I could, and certainly I grew to appreciate those facts.
Very good. Now, comics changed in 1961. Now, Timely Comics was the original company that published the Marvel Comics books, and they were focused on monsters and tales of suspense, crime dramas, westerns. But in 1961, cover date November 1961, which actually was August because the books on the cover were 3 months ahead of the actual day they hit the street. That's when the Fantastic Four hit the scene. And that was the first.
Oh man, you're just gonna blow over all those like cool horror comics. I was waiting for you to bring up like EC Comics and like
we're gonna
talk
about the comic book code. What that is there was a congressional hearing. There was a book called Seduction of the Innocent that came out, and it freaked out parents nationwide. You may remember this book, but there were congressional hearings where they're saying, hey, if kids read too many comic books, they're going to become.
Well, the problem that they overlooked is you had a whole generation of young men whose fathers went to fight World War II. And so they were sort of bereft of that, strong paternal figure in their lives, or even more tragically, dad did not make it home from the war. Or even another stage of that is where dad came home, but, maybe wasn't dad anymore. Dad had seen too much in Europe. And so you had this whole group of young men kind of, rudderless, that were kind of running wild. And so there was a huge rise in like what they call like juvenile delinquency. And so as the public was sort of trying to get their heads wrapped around this, like what is causing this, you couldn't be like, well, it's all these, men that got messed up in the brain fighting the war. Yeah. So they were trying to find, stress. Right. So they're trying to find something to pinpoint on it. And you see this carried forward, through history, where it's like, oh no, it's the video games, it's that heavy metal record. But at the time they were like, it's the comic books. And there's a really great book. It's called The 10-Cent Plague. And it really delves into this whole subject matter, but it's worth a read if you can find it and want to pick it up.
Excellent. Now Superman, of course, we talk about the serials, Batman, Superman. Well, Superman, of course, went on the small screen in The Adventures of Superman with George Reeves. We've talked about that. And that was a big hit in one of the first color shows. It started in black and white, and then it went to color. And I'm sure
the Cisco Kid was actually Cisco Kid and Lone Ranger were really the first color TV shows that actually were smart enough to produce them in color, because they were looking beyond the black and white era of television.
Well, but the original Lone Ranger wasn't black and white.
Yes, he was. Yeah. But it went to color. It went to color.
Well, how long was it black and white?
It was only black and white for I think the first 2 seasons.
Right.
And that was syndication anyway. That's back in syndication days when they still had syndication. Just like Wild Bill Hickok was syndicated, even though it was brought to you by Kellogg's. It was not a quote unquote network show to the point
there's another like serial plug-in.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying,
well, exactly.
There's a weird synchronicity of cereal.
That's what I'm saying. Kellogg's presents.
Well, we've got cereal.
Yes, we
movies
do.
And Count Chocula, and yeah.
But SERIAL.
Now here's the cool thing.
CEREAL is
KELL. Double good. Kellogg's, best to you. So Al, even though I've got a Wild Bill Hickok network that you haven't seen, and it's brought to you by Kellogg's.
Well, bring it over.
And it goes, Kellogg's presents, and then you hear Andy Devine. wow, Bill.
I
Hancock,"
remember that.
You know,
I
it was
remember that.
great.
Yeah.
See, back then they did those tie-ins, and so did Superman, the Superman TV show. There are some serial commercials with George Reed.
I've seen them.
With George Reed.
Cornflakes and stuff.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I've got one here we'll play in a minute. But I'm just saying, all those tie-ins even back then were kind of cool to hear those. But Cisco Kid was color all the way. There were no black and white ones of that, and it was shot and brilliant. I don't know if it was Technicolor or
It was Cinecolor.
It was a Cine. I was going to say Cinecolor.
Well, and I'm thinking about what you're saying about like the sort of commercial tie-ins, and I know Chance remembers this, and all the Marvel comics of the 70s. It'd be like, you know, some little page where it's like Hulk is selling you like Hostess cupcakes, you know, or there was actually like an O.J. Simpson ad that ran for the longest time where it was like selling you some
boots.
Yeah, or shoes or something. And then there was like like the Evil Knievel like motorcycle. So like, you know, comics were certainly not immune to taking advantage of a little advertising.
Crass commercial. Sell seeds, make money.
What about
trade?
Now, what I remember about the
prizes,
Superman comics, especially, was somewhere in those comics. It seemed like every time I got one, there was almost a full page ad for, what was it, Palisades Park or something? Come visit, and it had Superman. Or was it Palisades Park? I know that's a song. But it was some Coney Island, something like that up north. Do you remember that ad? It was like a full page freaking ad. I remember seeing this as a kid.
Daisy guns, BB guns.
Yeah, I'm saying they hawked all that stuff, but they tied into character all the time with that stuff.
You'll shoot your eye out.
Well, and that, you know, what you know, Chance mentioned early about the creators really getting ripped off, that it wasn't just the intellectual property that got used under the guise of like Superman as a cartoon or Superman as a TV show, but when you think about the revenue that has been generated by, you know, just Superman T-shirts alone.
Oh, sure.
Like, I mean, and toothbrushes and you know,
it's unlimited. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Siegel and Schuster, again, they got screwed on merchandising rights and royalties. And you know, I didn't mention this, but how they came up with the concept of Superman, they were sitting in a field talking. They looked up at the clouds and said, "Oh my, what would it be like if a man could fly amongst the clouds?" Anyway,
exactly.
Now, Al's falling asleep over there. We got to bring him into the conversation.
Well, before you do that, before we bring Al back, Al, hang on, Al.
I'm hanging in
Still
there.
there, Al? Okay,
here.
let's listen to the George Reeves, Tony the Tiger, Kellogg's Frosted Flakes commercial. I can't even talk now. Here it comes.
Hey, let's take a minute and meet my buddy, Clark Kent, the star of Superman.
You know, wherever you go, you find kids digging into Kellogg's great new cereal, Frosted Flakes. Listen.
What does it say? Great! It is, too.
He's using his X-ray eyes to look through the spine of somebody's house.
That seems kind of creepy, Superman.
That's so wrong.
Are you kidding? Guys, that's what Frosted Flakes are for, eating.
Yeah.
Superman's got the right idea, hasn't he? When he says they're best, he's right. Boy, I can just see the look on my sister's face when she sees I open the box first. Frosted Flakes are sure good, huh? Sure are.
See what I mean? Just as the boys said, Frosted Flakes are sure good. Try a box right away. And if you want to find out just how good Kellogg's Sugar Frosted Flakes are, why, ask Tony. Tell him, Tony.
Great!
Anyway, I didn't let the song.
Well, that was a weird tie-in too.
Was it a weird tie-in?
You know what movie, Christopher?
Like Superman to be like, you know, like sort of like Popeye with his spinach, be like, now that I have a bowl of cornflakes in my belly, I can go fight Lex Luthor.
You know what movie George Reeves was in?
Or something.
Hey,
Right, exactly.
You know what movie George Reeves was in? Besides Superman?
Tell us, Al.
Oh, gee,
Al has come back.
I bet I know.
Welcome back, Al.
Gone with the Wind.
Of course, real one.
And he had a mysterious death, not to be morbid.
Well, yeah, he did.
Any of you guys wanted to talk about that?
Well, we touched on it before, but briefly, they claimed that he killed himself. But if you look at the evidence, I personally don't think he did. Looking at the evidence,
Mob hit, gambling.
Well, I'm not going to say. I'm not even.
Conspiracy.
Yeah.
What was that movie that Ben Affleck was
Hollywood
in?
Land.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
By the way.
And it's based on the
Ben
life of
Affleck
George
made a
Reeves.
great movie. I must have missed that.
Yeah, you did.
It certainly wasn't Daredevil
Or Batman.
But if you look at some
Speaking of Batman,
speaking of Batman, if you look at some of the evidence again, we won't dwell on this, but the mysterious death of George Reeves still continues to ponder the minds of people.
What, did
and
he kill
fans
himself or
everywhere.
what?
Well, they say they
I
killed
don't
him.
think
He
so.
killed himself, but I don't think he did.
He's
He
up
had
there with Marilyn Monroe.
he had no reason to do that. He had just re-signed another contract, and things were looking up for him. But his seedy people that he hung out with that were downstairs that night were, anyway.
And he was afraid of being typecast. He was getting tired
Yes,
of
he
the
was.
role at the end.
Yes, he was, but he got to where he was directing the show more, and he was getting into that kind of a production element of it. And so there wasn't a lot of reason for him to do that. Things were going good for him.
Well, there was
know?
another DC character that started a phenomenon in this country in 1966 when it debuted, which is in January. It's a show that I know you and Al like, and Al has them on film and DVD. I have them on 16 millimeter film. I'll give you a hint.
Batman.
And I think somebody's got the theme.
Still don't know who that is.
I'm going to hold this up for our Facebook Live viewers or viewer. It's the Batman book, the Bat Book from 1988. Al, hold that up, please.
Is it an official Bat book?
It's an official Bat Book. It's a great
Oh.
reference guide to the phenomenon. And let me tell you, Adam West, the star, and I think Burt Ward, too, they were getting some serious tail in those days. Groupies in the trailer. It was like a round-the-clock sexathon.
Wow. Didn't know
I
that.
just have
What?
I just have one word to say: Catwoman.
Julie Newmar, the living doll herself, My Living Doll, the show she did before Catwoman. Lasted 1 year.
Well, Bob Cummings.
Chance, who was it that played the Batgirl in that show? She wasn't in a
Yvonne-
lot of episodes,
Yvonne Craig.
but I always remember because they altered the opening sequence just a little bit, where they showed her on her motorcycle, or when they're
Yes,
doing
they
like
did.
they're doing like the Pam Kabow, and they show
Fuck.
Yeah, they did.
Fuck. T-H-O-K.
her. Okay,
Well, you can't say.
You take ownership of that, Chance.
Sound effect where she'd swoop in and kick
Well,
somebody.
Yeah, they did. They did.
but like I remember it was always like when you saw that like altered introduction, you're like, yes, Batgirl is in this
Well,
one.
all they did was put in a sound effect for motorcycles screaming by. The version that we're playing under our voices right now is the original one without Yvonne DiCarlo's motorcycle popping in. And anyway, there's a few other
Yeah, and that's where she would go by in front of
Yes,
that Batmobile
exactly,
right at the end.
exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, can you pull up not
Exactly,
right now, but
that's
the
correct.
third season version? Because I love that sound effect. And
You're
I
like-
beg
you're
to
like that
differ,
sound
Danny's right, but they would not alternate. It would actually be the same. There would be two shots of Batgirl in the season 3 opening, Batman season 3 opening. I'm sure it's on YouTube, but Al, come on, you got to have a memory about Batman. I want to bring you in the conversation. I feel bad leaving you out.
That's okay. I'm all right. I'll let you know.
Well,
No,
who's
I
your
watch
favorite
I
Batman
watch.
villain?
It was on ABC 2 nights a week. I think it was Thursday and Friday, wasn't it, Tom?
yes, it was.
And I never missed it. I love the show.
I always thought it was Tuesday, Wednesday, but I could be wrong.
Oh, maybe you're
All
right.
right, so I
I don't
lied.
know.
I lied. Batgirl swings in and kicks one of the opponents as we're playing now, and they've lowered the key a little bit. I don't know why. And there's another arch criminal here.
Is this Neil Hefti?
Yes, it's same.
They lower the key because Batgirl just kicked him
Yes, exactly.
somewhere.
That's right. Well, usually we'd have to hire the key. There's a villain right there that's not supposed to be in there, but they stuck him in there. I forgot exactly who that villain was, but and there it is. There she went. She just drove by on her little bat cycle. Isn't that cute? And
Who was your favorite villain on Batman?
Oh, it had to be the Joker, Cesar Romero.
well,
But
it's
I
a
like
toss up
Mr.
between
Freeze too.
yeah,
I like the Riddler, man.
it's
I
a
really enjoy the Riddler.
it's a toss up between a Riddler and Joker.
Frank Gorshin was great. The original Riddler. Do you remember
Yeah,
what a
but-
flop it was when he was in a contract dispute and they brought in John Aston, Gomez
Yes,
Adams,
horrible.
from the Adams family
Horrible,
to play the
horrible,
Riddler in season 2?
Horrible.
Well,
Now,
how about Burgess Meredith? I
well,
liked him.
Burgess Meredith was great, but which Mr. Freeze did you like?
George Sanders, the original one.
there were
And he died shortly thereafter that. And there were several. Eli
Eli Wallach.
But I liked
Who was the
Sanders.
other one? Who was the other one?
I
Bald-headed
don't-
German director, Otto Preminger.
That's right. Bald.
Yeah,
They
the
shaved
bald-
his head
bald
because he
dude.
had hair in the other
Yeah.
incarnations
Yeah. So it's
of
kind of
Mr.
weird.
Freeze.
Yeah, and then of course, who played him in the movie?
Which time?
Well, Arnold.
Arnold.
Yeah.
Arnold's the one everybody remembers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Arnold
I got
Schwarzenegger.
a little brain
Arnold
toot. I think we were on
Schwarzenegger.
Joker. Yeah, of course. There was only one
Yeah.
Mr. Freeze in the movie.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, there's only one Joker, which was Cesar Romero. But I'll be the first to say Heath Ledger was amazing.
yeah,
I'm
and,
sorry.
and I liked Phoenix. I hated the movie for what they, but the performance is
Yeah.
excellent in Joker. I'll give them that. I just we'll talk.
I have no
won't give
desire
my
to
review.
see
I don't
that.
want
No,
to
I'm
be
sure,
a
I'm sure.
naysayer, but
Yeah, I know, but Heath Ledger's performance was absolutely amazing.
because half the people listening to me will hate my guts if I talk one bit of smack about Joker. Anyway, enough said.
That's right. Don't do
I don't
that.
care. I don't care to see it at all.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There's the Al Hardy review.
I'll take a little bit of heat from you, Chance.
Well, Chance didn't like it either.
I personally didn't like the Jack Nicholson Joker.
I didn't either.
I mean,
I'm sorry. I
just
didn't care
because
for him.
honestly, I thought he was a little bit too old for the part.
I agree.
If you gave me like a young Jack Nicholson, like back when he did like Little Shop of Horrors,
Yeah.
he'd have been brilliant.
Or The Shining.
Yes.
Or The Shining.
Here's Johnny.
I just feel like I said, I think he was too old to play the part.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion.
He had like maybe one or two, couple good lines, I guess. This whole town needs an enema. Or, I mean, just
Wow.
in 1989.
Was that one of his lines? I don't remember that. Okay.
Yeah, and then he blew a noisemaker after he said it.
Where did you get these wonderful toys?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and then what was the one? Where did they get a load of me? And he sees his face all mangled. It's pretty gory what Tim Burton did, showing his origin in the sludge. But
Well, the Tim Burton movies, all of them are kind of bizarre anyway. I mean, it's definitely a certain genre of the movies that he puts out, regardless of what the topic is. Even Dumbo was just kind of a bizarre little movie, really.
I have to say that I think that Danny DeVito made a really creepy penguin.
Yeah,
You're right.
But
He did. I
really
like Danny DeVito.
Yeah,
You're
I mean, he was
absolutely
like
right.
really creepy in that.
I call him
And,
a slutty penguin. because-
And what like Pee Wee Herman played his dad. You know,
Paul Rubens.
yeah, Paul. And that was
I
like-
didn't remember that, but that's how.
Well, it's such a
I
brief
mean,
scene with his
yeah.
parents where, like, you know, the baby's in the carriage and he's got his little flipper hands and they're all
Oh
disappointed.
yeah. I
And
remember.
then they
now.
go
I
and they
remember
go
now.
and drop him off at like the
Yeah.
you know the carnival or whatever, and
Yeah.
He had this black blood, like he was.
Yeah.
The stuff he would eat was nasty too.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and before that, though, Superman the movie was a smash hit. And we're not just trying to glaze over Batman. I think we should do a whole Podblast in the future, next year or whenever, about Batman the 60s series. We're not trying to just glaze over, but Superman the movie, I just want to mention, they actually thought about casting, if you can get this, Robert Redford as the Man of Steel and Telly Savalas. It was going to have like this stupid little bit where Superman's flying overhead looking for Lex Luthor. He sees a bald head, and then he swoops down, and then it's revealed to be Telly Savalas' Kojak saying, "Who loves you, baby?"
That would have been the biggest mistake in the world.
It's sucking on a lollipop.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that. And you know what? They hired Mario Puzo, the author of The Godfather, who wrote Superman 1 and 2, and they were filmed at the same time.
Wow.
So much to talk about. I'll just quickly say that the director, Richard Donner, was fired because he was spending too much money, taking too much time getting it right. And he was shooting 1 and 2 at the same time. He completed, I think, 3/4 of Superman 2 when they let him go, and they brought in Richard Lester, the assistant director who had done the Three Musketeers movies.
Right.
He's British, and then they retooled it, edited out scenes, and then they eventually released Superman 2, the Donner cut, in 2006, and it's great.
Is that the version you brought here?
Yes,
We watched?
yes, because
Yeah,
they also
okay.
cut out Marlon Brando, because Marlon Brando wanted. It came back after he was paid over $1 million for 14 days of work at Pinewood Studios in England in 1977 to shoot scenes for 1 and 2. He says, "Well, it was such a hit. I think I deserve more money." So they said, "The hell you say?" They fired the director, and they fired him too, and cut him from the movie, and then had Superman's mom be the one to tell the Man of Steel the facts of life when he wants to get it on with Lois Lane and explain to him, "Well, you might kill her. You're gonna have to lose your powers or something because something's not adding up here. You might just go right through her, and there'd be an issue."
Well, the Superman 2, that was the one where it had like all the villains from like the Phantom Zone, right?
Yeah, the Kryptonian villains who had the same powers as Superman. Yeah, that's the one we
Yeah,
watched
yeah.
out here.
Well, that was always like really creepy, like where like, you know, the way they did like the sort of like, I don't know, like the shard of mirror, you know, floating through space or whatever, them sort of trapped in it. I thought that was cool.
That
Yeah,
was cool.
it
And
was.
the woman, Ursa, was much more dark in the Mario Puzo version. They cut a lot of lines. She hated men and wanted to kill men,
Oh, wow.
hated men in authority, and she would collect like their little badges. If she'd find a cop, she'd kill him, take his badge, and put it on her uniform. She killed a NASA astronaut on the moon, kicked him, took his
NASA.
little badge, and then, of course, the oxygen went out. And they screwed up I love Donner, okay, but they screwed up the gravity because, like, they drop an American flag when they fly away,
Yes,
and
they did.
it doesn't float; it goes right
It
to the
doesn't.
ground.
You're right.
But anyway, enough about that. We go on and on about the Superman movies, but that was a big hit. And came out December 15th, 78, and it was a
I
massive
did like the
hit.
score, the film score.
John Williams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the film
good.
score was great.
I'd love to play a clip of that if we had it, but we don't have to right now. But that's just great music by John Williams. So, and I met Chris Reeve right before his tragic accident where he was paralyzed in 1994 at the Castlegate Hotel, which is no longer in Atlanta, at a convention. So nice. I have an autograph of his.
Oh,
And I
great.
asked him a question, and I had the audio, but I couldn't find it. I shot it with like
Oh.
remember in Back to the Future, Marty McFly had this camcorder, like a
Yeah.
red JVC? Well, that's mine, and it takes a micro cassette.
Yeah.
And last night, the damn converter that converts it to normal VHS size broke.
Well, I've got
So
one.
I need to get, you do? I
I've
need to
got
buy one. You have a spare?
I don't have a spare.
Well,
but
you
I've
could
got
loan
one.
it maybe. I would love that because there's stuff I need to convert to DVD, but that's besides the point. But I asked Christopher Reeve then, I said, is it true you were paid $1 million to play Superman? And I knew it was Marlon Brando. I just want to see what he'd say. And he goes, no. He goes, it was shameless how little they paid me. They paid me enough for box lunch and bus fare. And that made it in the AJC Atlanta Journal-Constitution paper, that quote. Anyway, whatever. But he was a nice guy, and I met his wife, and he did another movie Somewhere in Time that has a fan
Of
following.
course.
That's
Yeah.
a great
Travel
movie.
That's definitely a cult following because every year they get together to.
Is that the one with like the Jack the Ripper Somewhere in Time?
That's Time After Time.
No, that's
That
Time
was
After Time.
My bad.
about H.G. Wells.
Once again, comic book expert, not
Yeah.
TV show expert here.
Yeah. Somewhere in Time was.
And that was referenced in Endgame, which we'll talk about later. Avengers Endgame. They referenced, and they were talking about all these time travel movies. And you mean to tell me Back to the Future is a bunch of bullshit? Time After Time, that was mentioned as one of the many TV shows and movies that deal with time travel.
Well, again, that Somewhere in Time was based on the book by one of the famous Twilight Zone writers. His name is
Richard Matheson.
Thank you. That's who it was. Richard Matheson, and who wrote a book. And the book was different from the actual movie because in the movie, in the book, the Christopher Reeve character is dying from a brain tumor. And that's how he's able to go back. It's weird. The book is
cool.
bizarre. And they didn't take that tact at all in the movie. They went totally somewhere else
I've
with it.
never read the book. I got to
Yeah,
read it now.
The book is actually
I
pretty
love the
good.
movie.
Yeah, the book is pretty good. You can probably find it on eBay, but it's good because Matheson wrote it. Matheson was a brilliant writer. He wrote a lot of Twilight Zones too, Al. And
Twilight Zone's back in theaters, and we've been a little ticked because
There
whoever
were
chose
terrible
the
episodes they put in theaters.
No.
didn't pick the best. They're playing. Is it 6 episodes for the 60th anniversary of the
Yeah.
Twilight Zone?
was it 4?
4?
Yeah.
All right. Well, they picked one called Walking Distance with Gig Young, where he just goes to the town he grew up in,
Yeah.
and it's so boring. They needed to do Midnight Sun, which ties into the whole climate change debate, where it's getting hotter and hotter. We're getting closer to the sun. The sun's going to kill us all. And then there's a shock ending, of course, a twist. But that one would have played so much better in the cinema, I think, as would have Living Doll with Telly Savalas, kind of like the predecessor of Chucky,
Exactly.
the killer doll.
But you got to remember the type of management that's picking those titles these days, or the young millennial types, and they're not really big fans of the genre of the series. They're picking whatever's the cheapest.
Monsters Do on Maple Street,
Yeah.
that's so dated and lame. And they chose too many first season episodes because they didn't have the classic theme in the first
Yeah.
season. They had the one by the author, the guy that scored Psycho, Bernard Herrmann.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the do. That wasn't until season 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I don't know. I think people are going to.
They should have released The Howling Man.
The Howling
Yes, now
Man's a
that's-
good one about the devil.
Oh, that's yeah, but that's and Little Girl Lost was one of the ones that scared me as a kid.
Rod Serling's daughter
Yes, exactly.
played the little girl.
Yeah,
Lost.
but-
And that was a precursor to Poltergeist, where Carrie Ann goes into the light.
Yes,
Same
yes,
story.
Same story. Yeah.
What was the episode? I want to say it had like William Shatner, and there was some diner.
Yeah.
there was.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put your little nickel
Yes,
in.
and I've got-
told your fortune.
And I've got
yeah.
that at home.
And
I've got
he
That's
gets
a good one.
obsessed
That's a good
with
one.
it, and he
Yes.
can't leave the town.
yes.
And then I like how at the end, finally, his wife snaps him out of it, and then you see this poor couple that hasn't snapped out, and they're just putting
And
every
they're-
dime into.
well, they
Can
come
we
in-
leave town
They-
today?
yeah, they come in behind
please?"
him. Isn't that great? Now I've got that. They've released that as I'm going to say action figure, but I've got that statue, that resin statue of that actual coin dispenser that you can put the coins. Got the devil head on the top.
Oh yeah.
What was the episode of Twilight Zone where the
Excuse me.
this guy had this suitcase and he sold stuff out of the suitcase?
Well, that was Ed Wynn. He
That was a
struck,
good
He
one.
struck a deal with the devil because he thought he could out deal the devil, and for a life, etc. That was a really good because Ed Wynn was a comedian, but he was a great actor too.
That was
You
a
go-
good
you go
episode.
back and watch that episode and look at his acting ability. It was just amazing. It was amazing.
Also, like the one with the mannequins.
Yes.
Anne Francis, I
Anne
think, was in
Francis,
it.
yeah,
The
yeah.
After Hours. is
You
the-
mean Anne Francis, star of Honey West?
Yeah.
See, that's
and Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
Or
But
A-Star.
see that's some of the shows we're going to be talking about in a very near future. We're going to be talking about shows from the 60s, the Honey West, the Lost in Space, some really, really cool shows that you are going to remember that we're just going to talk about at some point in time very, very soon. So be sure to stay tuned. And
You got to hit that Twilight episode. I want to say it's like, it turns out like it's a bunch of different like dolls in a trash can, but like you see it, it's all like live action.
Yeah.
It's like there's like a clown and like a ballerina,
It's a military officer.
and they're like, trying to figure out like how do we get out of this cube or whatever. And it turns out they're good.
It's like a bell. They're in like a donation box.
Yeah.
And they're at the edge of the bell for the bell ringer. And
Yeah.
I gave away the spoiler alert. Sorry, I forgot to say spoiler. It's only been out
see
for
what
60
you've done.
years.
See what you've done. See what you've done. Hey, I'm getting back to Richard Matheson. He has written some amazing stuff. I mean, he wrote I Am Legend. Remember that movie? He did that. He wrote The Shrinking Man. He did Hell House. By the way, the book is called Bid Time Return. That's what the Bid Time Return is. What Somewhere in Time is written about. Bid Time Return. That's great. But he wrote, and these are just the books that he's written. A Nightmare at 20,000 Feet.
with William Shatner as well.
Now we're having like
The thing on the plane, on the wing.
Yeah.
Now we're having a William Shatner.
Whatever happened to that guy? He's washed up, man. They need to bring him back. He's so underrated and underused.
Yeah, he is. He totally is. I
He
think
looks bloated now.
hey, give the man some creds. He's an old guy.
I like him.
He's an older guy.
I don't know what happened in the swimming pool, but
Yeah,
There's someone in the bottom of the pool.
There's
My
no,
wife in the
no
bottom.
reason to comment on that.
see
but,
now I piss people
But-
off.
but
Again. I
him
love
and-
you, Bill.
but him
I
and-
doubt you're listening, but
but him and Henry Winkler and some other George Foreman did a wonderful show on NBC that lasted for I think 2, maybe even 3 summer replacement type series where they went around the world experiencing all these far off places together as a group. It's very funny. It's very funny. As a matter of fact, I got some right here, but they're very funny shows, and they're not on right now, but you can probably find them on the good old fashioned internet.
so I was starting to get into Marvel a while back, about 1961's when the Fantastic Four hit the scene. August. It's a tremendous hit. Then you had the Incredible Hulk in '62. Amazing Fantasy 15 was the first appearance of Spider-Man. It was just a little story. It was just half of the book, and it got such an overwhelming response from readers, and the sales just skyrocketed. And so it got its own series, The Amazing Spider-Man.
Well, and sort of the story that I had heard was that the Amazing Fantasy title was going to close down. And at this time, Stan Lee was sort of becoming jaded with being in the comic book industry, which is funny because it was still its earliest point. And he was telling his wife about this, like, I want to write the great American novel. I think I'm going to get out of this. And since the Amazing Fantasy title was getting ready to close, she said, look, why don't you do the comic book that you would like to see? If you're going to leave this and walk away from it, you make the comic book that you want. And that created Spider-Man. And then the rest is Marvel
As they
Comics.
say, history.
Yeah.
And Stan Lee's not his real name. His real name's Stan Lee Lieber. And so he stretched out Stan Lee to Stan Lee, and his brother. He got his brother Larry into it as well, into the comic biz. But it was a new lease on life for him when the Marvel heroes took off. And then shortly thereafter, you had a cartoon series in 1966 by Grantley. And this was so lame. They literally took pages of comic panels and just moved the mouths. It was the Incredible Hulk, Submariner, Iron Man, Thor. But they had catchy jingles. We don't have any
Is
clips
that the
for that.
film you brought here one time we watched?
Yeah, no, that was the 1980s Hulk. That was terrible. That was
terrible, yeah.
1982's cartoon Hulk. But no, they had one in the 60s, and it was literally pages of Tales to Astonish and Tales of Suspense, respectively, and other issues like that. So, but they had good theme songs.
Great theme songs.
Yeah.
I like every one of them.
Bruce Banner, tilted by gamma rays, turns into the Hulk. And glamour and whatever.
Oh, you guys do it better than the original song.
And then we liked also Iron Man. I'm not going to sing the woman.
Everybody's like,
Tony Stark makes you feel he's a cool exec with a heart of steel. An Iron Man with just a what?
That's great. guys.
Fights and fights with repulsor rays.
Now, can I-
Amazing armor Man. That's Iron
Man.
Amazing power. That's Iron
Yeah, look
Man.
at that.
Hey, you guys don't get out much, do you?
Let's see. When Captain America throws his mighty shield.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
Well,
We're running out of time.
no, I'm glad you sang it because then it won't get edited out by
What was
the.
Thor? You know Thor. It was like
Across the rainbow bridge of Asgard.
Oh my gosh!
and Submariner had it. All right, we'll stop.
Hey, let's listen. Let's listen to a little
I'll spare
bit of Stan Lee from a 2000 interview on CNN talking about creating Spider-Man. Okay.
To Larry King Live, the most famous name in American comic book history. The writer Stan Lee, the co-founder and chairman and chief creative officer of Stan Lee Media, chairman emeritus of Marvel Media, member of the editorial board of Marvel Comics, consultant to DC
Shut up, Larry.
Comics. He has a remarkable deal with them, and it's a great pleasure to watch. Why do you wear those glasses all the time? You wear them to sleep.
You know, the funny thing is, I started wearing these years ago. I don't even remember why. And when people do caricatures of me,
They
they
draw
always
you with
have
the
the glasses, and it's become like a little trademark.
But don't you see the world through dark eyes?
No, it's great. I don't see any of the imperfections.
Ah.
Everything is muted and gentle. It's lovely wearing these tinted glasses.
Let's trace the career of Stan Lee. All of us as kids read them. What made you make a career of comics?
Greed.
There it is.
Me for it. No, actually, when I started,
Now, you met Stan Lee.
I applied for a job in this publishing company. I saw an ad. I didn't know they published comics. I thought it was a real publishing company. When I saw they wanted me to work in the comic book department, I figured, hey, why not? I'll get some experience for a while, and then I'll get into the real world. I'm still waiting to get out into the real world.
You hit it off right away? Is that it?
Yeah, yeah.
What
Well,
did you like about Zap, Boom, Blam? I'll get you, you dirty curd.
Man, you're bringing it all back to me. That sounds
Dirty
good.
curd.
I love working with these talented artists. I always wanted to be an artist when I was a kid. I used to draw. And suddenly I saw people who could draw 1,000 times better than I ever could. And I was giving them the stories. They were drawing them. And it was a collaboration that was so exciting to discuss a story and a few days later to see it all drawn on boards, then a month later to see it in a book, and to know that kids are reading these and enjoying them.
Were good comics then well drawn?
Comics were always well drawn for the time. For example, the early Supermen didn't look anything like they look today, but in those days, the artwork was good for what it was. It had a lot of freedom, you know what I mean? And it was just the way they thought of it, and they put it down. They were fun to read. As the months and years went by, the artwork has gotten much more sophisticated.
Well, there it goes. Anyway, he keeps on. Right. He's not rambling, of course, but Larry doesn't know how to ask the right questions. Unfortunately, that's the old CNN adage. Producer feeding him questions in his ear.
I'm sorry for interrupting because I don't have my headphones on today.
Yes.
I thought the clip was over, but you did meet Stan Lee.
Yeah, I
mean,
met
you've
Stan.
talked about it in a previous Podblast,
Yes.
but would you touch on that, please?
Well, it was an encounter. I was still working at MSNBC, but I just left Turner Broadcasting and had some good producer ties. And a producer friend of mine, Michael Wachalonis, wanted me to go out to Las Vegas and do this comic thing out there at the Fiesta Casino off the Strip. And so I said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And come to find out, I was doing it was like a mini convention that Game Tap, which was another one of the Turner conglomerate companies before Ted sold out. And Michael was kind of in charge of a lot of that stuff. So he pulled me in to go do it. And so I went out to Vegas and we met on the stage at the convention center at the Fiesta. And there was like 4 people there. It was me, 2 other guys that were in charge of the convention, and Stan Lee was there. And I wasn't a big Stan Lee aficionado back then at all. I was doing other things. And we were just talking about what we were going to do, how we were going to shoot it, da-da-da-da-da. And they left, and it was just me and Stan. So we were just kibitzing about Las Vegas and stuff. I didn't ask him a thing about Marvel. I didn't ask him anything about Spider-Man. I didn't ask him any of those questions. And I kind of got the impression that he appreciated that because I didn't harp on it. I didn't ask for a picture. I didn't ask for an autograph like an idiot. And, but he was a very nice guy. I mean, very down to earth guy. At least back then he was very approachable.
I met him too. but
What
I
year
said,
was that?
I'm not worthy.
This was
not worthy.
Yeah, this
not
was
worthy.
about 2005 or 2006. And like I said, he was at a convention out there. Part of it, one of the people talking to the audience, answering questions and everything. So I was amazed he was there one-on-one. I was one-on-one with him. They left and it's just me and Stan.
Very cool. And
So it was cool. It was cool. I don't remember verbatim what we talked about, but we were talking about Vegas.
just shot the breeze.
Just shot the breeze.
Well, there's controversy because some say Steve Ditko, the artist who drew Spider-Man, is the creator. I think it was a collaboration between the two, but there is a debate amongst fans who really created Spider-Man. But
well, I'm
I think
guessing.
Stan the Man Lee deserves the credit.
Oh yeah, because he wrote the stories.
Well, I think too, a lot of times, if you go back and you listen to, different interviews with Stan Lee or read, interviews with him, his stories change sometimes. I mean, which is not that he was fabricating anything, but when you're trying to recall a memory from 30, 35 plus years ago,
correct.
You might not have a perfect grasp on it. And certainly where you don't realize how momentous it is at the time. So all this little minutia that Marvel comic fans like, you'd love to know, like, well, why did you pick red and blue for Spider-Man? And I'm sure it might've been something very arbitrary. Like that was the two colors that they had in their box or something. But as they get peppered with these questions, they probably feel compelled to have answers beyond like, hey man, I really don't remember. This is gonna be really satisfying for the fans.
Yeah. I mean, that's just like, I think Chance has asked me, would you and Stanley talk about it? I said, well, nothing really important, nothing memorable.
The weather.
Yeah. I mean, no, not back then. I wasn't at the Weather Channel, but, I mean, I don't remember everything we talked about at all.
Right.
I'm sorry at all.
And you mentioned the colors. That could have been the doggone colorist for all we know,
Well, and Chance here, he's got this this Will Smith mutants, monsters, Marvels. I don't know if it's on this one or Kevin Smith. Sorry. Or if there was a series
Live camera.
Yeah, you can hold it up. But I saw, I think that one like on Netflix, and is Kevin Smith asking Stan questions. And they're talking about Thor, and they're talking about Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, which of course goes back to ancient Norse mythology. But Stan is he's like, yeah, I think we just came up with some name for the hammer, like, Mjolnir or something like that. And I'm, and of course, Kevin doesn't correct him. Why would you? But, for anybody who knows like Norse mythology, it's like, no, man, this goes way, way, way back. But, and Stan with all the characters they created and all the names they came up with and all the situations in his head, he was just like, oh yeah, we made it up. Yeah. I know. Obviously you can, anyone can look it up that no, Marvel Comics did not make up the name Mjolnir. But once again, like you could tell like Stan was being genuine. It was just a detail that was lost in the pantheon of his life. So like I said, I think sometimes when people want to Chance was saying about who created this part of this character or who, what was, I'm sure, I mean, Chance has got a big enough comic book collection that we can find comic books that have characters that nobody remembers. That's how many characters they created. So when they found one that hit, sometimes maybe it didn't hit till years and years later, and now they're trying to recollect all the details. It'd be impossible.
Right on. And we've talked about a lot of the movie and TV incarnations. I just want to touch on the Incredible Hulk, which was a big hit. It lasted 5 seasons. The 5th season was only a few episodes. It was actually shot during the 4th season. People don't realize the network held on to like 5 episodes and withheld them, but tremendous hit. And I just wanted to play a clip of the trailer. Let me know when it's rolling because I can't hear.
Sure, no problem. He'll get it cued in a second. I've also got another clip of Stanley talking about exactly how he came up with Spider-Man. But we're going to play that Hulk clip first. Go ahead.
1978.
All right, here it comes.
Here are some scenes from the next episode of The Incredible Hulk.
Up there! Rafe, I want you and Phil to take the dogs and head out into the swamp. I want to make sure that they do not get out alive.
Julie! It's quicksand! Get him! Julie, for God's sake!
great acting.
For
Great.
God's sake, I've got to take a dump.
Wow.
Here's my
just
impression
killed
of
my ears.
the Incredible Hulk.
That was good.
The guy who actually did the voice of the Hulk is none other than Ted Cassidy, who was Lurch on the Addams Family.
Oh,
And the Hulk was really, really good. It was sort of like The Fugitive. I think they kind of borrowed a lot from The Fugitive. And the guy who adapted the Hulk to TV, the writer-director, is Kenneth Johnson, who had done The Bionic Woman, and he'd worked on $6 Million Man. And
I know you wanted to talk about the change of the name.
I did, because the character in the comics is Bruce Banner, the alter ego of the Hulk. But in the TV show, they made it David Banner, because the executives at CBS, in their infinite wisdom, thought Bruce was too feminine a name, and they thought he would be perceived as something that he's not. And
Feminine like Bruce Jenner?
And so, and also the director, Kenneth Johnson, get this, he wanted to make the Hulk red. He said, red is the color of rage. I heard him say this. I've met him a couple times. He said this to me face to face. He goes, I wanted the Hulk to be red, but Stan Lee said, no, he's green. He started as gray, and then he was best known as green. You're not going to make him red. And he wanted him red because that's the color of rage. He goes, but green is the color of envy. It doesn't make sense. But thank gosh they went with green. And Lou Ferrigno, that the original Hulk was going to be Richard Kiel, who was in The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker. He played Jaws with the steel teeth, but he was just a little too thin. And there's one shot in the pilot or first episode where you see him trying to save a girl from the drowning lake, the takeoff on Frankenstein, the girl at the lake. And you see him pulling the tree, and that is Richard Kiel. There's one shot.
Is Richard Kiel the guy that was in that MGM movie, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers?
No.
Richard, what was his name? I thought it was Kiel.
No, that was
Howard Keel. Maybe?
Howard Keel. Okay,
He was in Dallas. He
my
played
bad.
Clayton.
Sorry.
That's okay.
That's another show. So would you play just the narration of Ted Cassidy of the Hulk, and then that'll be my last clip, because we got to start talking about other things, because I know Tom's got to get out in about 30 minutes.
Here it comes.
Dr. David Banner, physician, scientist, searching for a way to tap into the hidden strengths that all humans have. Then an accidental overdose of gamma radiation interacts with his unique body chemistry. And now when David Banner grows angry or outraged, a startling metamorphosis occurs.
It sounds like he's farting.
The creature is driven by rage and pursued by an investigative reporter.
Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Lieutenant Gerard clone.
An accidental explosion took the life of a fellow scientist and supposedly David Banner as well. The reporter thinks the creature was responsible.
I gave a description to all the law enforcement agencies. They got a warrant for murder out of it.
A murder which David Banner can never prove he or the creature didn't commit. So he must let the world go on thinking that he too is dead, until he can find a way to control the raging spirit that dwells within him.
Da, da, da.
Didn't that sound like The Fugitive a little bit to anyone that knows of the show? With the show,
does.
and they're both doctors, Dr. Richard Kimball, Dr. David Banner. Anyway, different kind of doctor, a physician and a scientist. But last thing about Hulk, Ted Cassidy sadly died in '79 on the operating table for open heart surgery. And they replaced him as they kept his narration throughout the whole 5 seasons you just heard, a shortened version of that. What we just heard is a rare version from the second movie, which was kind of the second pilot, called A Death in the Family. And it aired in November 1978, a week or so after the pilot. Yeah. And then it became a regular series starting in March 78. I said 78, I meant to say 77. It started in November 77. That's when Death in the Family aired. And so they replaced Ted Cassidy with Charles Napier, who was in the original Star Trek Hippie episode. And he was in The Cable Guy. He was the cop, if you've seen the movie Cable Guy. And Jim Carrey talks to him. I love Cable Guy. Jim Carrey goes, I fought the law and the law won. And he's kind of a crooked cop, Charles Napier. And he's the one who goes, sing us a song to Jim Carrey's character. And he sings that song, Summer. He goes, it's the Summer of Love, baby. And he sings anyway.
Louie.
No, it was a Grace Slick song. I don't care. Anyway, I digress.
Did you see the picture recently of the 82-year-old Grace Slick? Oh my God.
Thankfully, no.
Oh my God.
She's been rode up. And
She's 82.
rode
God
hard.
bless her.
Oh my God.
Where do we want to go now?
It's on
I guess I hate to be self-serving, but Danny, I'm so glad you're here because.
But you know what? Speaking of Sharpies, can I borrow that comic book over there? That real expensive comic book.
We're gonna go there.
I've got a Sharpie
Okay.
here, and I like to autograph it for you. You know, just put my name on it.
That's okay. I've sort of been there and done that.
Oh, have you?
Almost 30 years ago.
Well, Chance has got a fascinating story, so here it comes.
Well, all right.
Sad but
of
true.
Of course, it involves a woman.
Well,
as most things do. There was a woman I was friends with, I was wild about, and I wanted to be more than friends. She wanted just to be friends. And anyway, she got it. We were really close at the time.
So I want the comic book music for this, like, bum, bum, bum.
Yeah. Danny's been waiting
Started
for me
off
to
with
tell
a
this
girl.
story.
Dun, dun, dun.
She got irritated with me asking, who are you dating? Are you dating so and such? Are you dating, and just bothering with phone calls. I mean, we were friends, but she made it clear I just want to be friends, and I loved her. So she wound up. I gave her and my other friend Audrey. I'm not going to mention last names here, but her first name is Karen. And before this happened, as a show of trust, I said, I want you as a trust test. And boy, did I fail that test, or she failed, I guess. Yep. I gave her a comic called Amazing Spider-Man 14, the first appearance of the Green Goblin.
He's just giving you little sound effects for your story there, Chance.
I know I'm being long, but let me get to the point.
Yeah.
All right. I loaned my friend Audra Avengers issue 2, and I loaned Karen. I said, hang on to it as long as you want. Amazing Spider-Man 14, which is the first appearance of the Green Goblin. Mint condition. And one is sold for like $100
Chance, I
grand.
want to just back up 1 second. About how old were you when this went down?
I was like 18 or 19.
So like 18, 19. And for anybody who knows comics, so you're saying you had an Avengers number
2.
Avengers number
Audra, and she still has
2.
it to this day.
Okay,
She's supposed to give it back, but that's okay.
And
Karen got Spider-Man 14.
An Amazing Spider-Man number 14.
Opening my heart
which
to her is a sign
very,
of
very
trust.
first appearance of the Green Goblin. Probably the most iconic villain. It's Batman, Joker, Spider-Man, Green Goblin.
How long ago was this?
And William Dafoe played him in the movies. This was back in 1990. So anyway, she took a magic marker to the comic because she was tired of me, wanting to date. She said, "Go to hell, Chance," and wrote in black permanent ink, front, back, and center, this story. And she misspelled the letters. Well, she said, when she said "you're dead," it said "Y-O," "you're dead to me," "Y-O-U-R" to me instead of "Y-O-U."
Well, and she also did interior pages.
And as I said, front, back, and center.
Yeah.
So it really hurt my heart, and I wound up selling the book in 1990 to a comic shop in town, and the guy's still there. I won't say the name of the shop, but I sold it because I didn't want to look at it. I was shocked. I was hurt. I was disgusted. This is a prized comic book. By the way, trivia about Amazing Spider-Man 14. In the show Different Strokes, there's an episode where Arnold steals a comic book, and it's Spider-Man 14. You can see the rerun on Antenna TV. So anyway, my comic was destroyed, and I was just devastated. And now here's the kicker. In July this year, the end of July, Newsweek wrote an article about it, and they deemed this the angry girlfriend variant. And I have been looking for this comic again. I've been looking for this comic. I wanted to get it back. And actually, I found it. I found the comic. But go to Newsweek or Google and Google Angry Girlfriend Variant comic book. And you'll see the article. And I'm referenced in there by name, my first name, Chance. And it goes, the author says something like, some guy named Chance really must have.
Well, and from what I saw, I mean, for a moment there, people didn't know who saw the story if you were actually a real person. Once again, this is your story to tell, but I think you need to get to the point where it just turned a really weird corner where beyond conspiracy. I'm a young man, I'm seeing a young woman, I make her mad, and she defaces my personal property.
Destroyed it.
Just destroyed it. I'm trying to be delicate here.
She was. I'm still upset about it, but this is a long time ago.
Right. It was a long time
ago. I'm
ago,
not saying this to gear people up and like get out torches or anything like that.
To me, where the story gets really weird is where this shows up in this Newsweek article, where it's now given a title, The Angry Girlfriend Variant. And the owners of this,
who bought it in 1993 at Dragon Con from this comic shop I sold it to in 1990,
are asking an exorbitant amount of money for this.
$100,000 cash is what they told me when I tried to buy it back.
So where I saw this developing, to me, it was just such an odious thing where anybody who collects comics are given a grade. There's actually professional grading companies from a 0.5 to a 10 being perfect. And the gentlemen that were now in possession of this defaced comic
in Rockmart, Georgia,
had it graded at a 1.5. Now, the market value, and there's all kinds of online companies, gocollect.com, where you can type in a comic book and type in a grade, and it will give you a sort, not like, not a speculative value, but what examples of this issue in this grade are currently selling for. And I want to say that Amazing Fantasy 14 and a grade of 1.5 was going for a few $100. I mean, $400, $500.
Right.
Because, I mean, even in a low grade, it is a highly desirable issue. Once again, leaning back, what was so upsetting is Chance's copy of this was beautiful.
Beautiful. Oh, my, it must have been like a 9.7.
Which is worth thousands.
No, like, yeah. I mean, a lot.
A few thousand.
Over 30 grand, maybe over 30 to 100 grand.
I'll give you $100 for it. Yeah. So these guys that get a hold of this defaced comic that's graded a 1.5 create this whole fabricated mythology that this is some sought after underground comic that has gone from like dealer to dealer to dealer, people clamoring for the Angry Girlfriend variant. And so then they're asking $100,000 for a 1.5 graded comic book that has a value of $400 or $500.
There are current artists allegedly that I've seen on the Twitter page that say, "Oh, I want that." I don't know if they're serious, and allegedly there's some famous people that want that book as well. But I think that's enough said for now on that topic in the interest of time.
Well, can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Both of you are comic collectors, have a big collection. What attracts you to comics? I mean, what made you want to collect comic books? Did you read them as a kid? Did you?
Artwork. That's how we met. Was our moms both taught at Soap Creek Elementary here in Georgia, 5th grade down the hall, and his mom and mom said, "Hey, my kid likes comics, so does mine." And so we met. I like personally. I'll turn it over to Dan here in a second, but I call him Danny affectionately. We've known each other for years, but I like the art and I like the story. These were written for adults. The number one buyers of comics in the 60s were college students and soldiers fighting in Vietnam. Adults were the primary buyers. So there were some kids, but these were not. They didn't insult your intelligence. Stan Lee and Gary Conway, Len Wein. If I mispronounce his name, forgive me. These authors could tell a story, and that's why the movies have done so well. And we'll talk about some really big directors are bashing the Marvel movies. That's another topic. But Dan, tell us why you were drawn to comic books.
Well, I think for me, a very, very young age, I was real early on attracted to like the old black and white Universal Studio monsters and early science fiction. And so is a story, the fantastic element, the fantastical element had a great appeal for me. Now, something else to sort of consider is that artwork at the time was well advanced of like, there was no CGI. Even early animation was, it was coming along. But you could see an artist that would take a full page splash panel, and here's this superhero, who's shooting webs out of his hands, who's fighting this green goblin villain who's on this bat flying rocket. There wasn't a whole lot of places you could see stuff like that. The only thing that on TV was,
they didn't have the technology.
Was old black and white, Lone Ranger or Tom and Jerry cartoons. So it was really kind of edgy.
Right. And they had the Spider-Man cartoon. We won't need to play that in the interest of time. Also, I think Sony would probably get after us for playing that song because it's been in the Spider-Verse and a lot of recent movies. My favorites were the Tobey Maguire movies, but I hated that the webbing was an organic part of him and not a device
that he created,
in the comics and in the new comics. Thankfully, the Marvel Universe have corrected that. in the new Spider-Man movies, but I liked it because it was like a gun running out of bullets. If he ran out of cartridges, he couldn't swing from building to building, and you had a sense of drama. And I just didn't like how in the movie.
Well, that sort of goes back to what I said
organic.
about like the Superman early on, where it built in a flawed ability. Where if you make it organic, where he's just got this unlimited web supply, it doesn't create a lot of drama. But where all of a sudden he's in the middle of some action, and all of a sudden like, I'm out of web fluid and had to adapt to that fight. It created great drama.
Now, Danny, we're going to run out of time. I want to talk about something about how Marvel back in the 80s screwed me out of a character I created who is now being merchandised, who is now rumored to be in Deadpool 3. And I'm pretty angry about it. I remember back in the day, back up. I started submitting things to Marvel. I sent them a fan letter, and around that time, and there was a contest they announced based on this book.
And what book would that be?
I'm grabbing the book. The official Marvel Comics tryout book. We hold that up for our Facebook Live viewers. It's an oversized book. And they were begging for submissions, and I have the ad for the timeline. And so I sent in a synopsis, a full drawing, and some panels, comic art I did in full color of a character that I called Happy. And he was a demented happy face. He was drawn in purple and in yellow, and he was literally a demented happy face. And I wrote a synopsis like in the official handbook to the Marvel Universe. Marvel guys and gals know what that is. It was a book of all the characters alphabetically in the Marvel Universe, and it was like a little synopsis of what he can do, and he could drive people insane with his stare. And what happened was, who got credit, they published in, this would have hit in, let's see, April 1985. Captain America comes out. And what do I see? I see my creation. Now, Danny, you and a friend who's going to call in, Jeff, remember me creating this character. And I'd like you to talk about that.
Absolutely. And I remember so very clearly, and I've told Chance this, so and I'm not hurt his feelings here, that honestly, originally I thought his design of like, here's this bright yellow, supervillain with like this triangle eyes, triangle mouth. It seemed very uncompelling to me. I did like his ability where he could, drive people insane, but it just didn't seem that menacing. Now, it took me getting older to realize that was the most menacing thing about it, that it wasn't like some big scary character and with horns and armor and, a dragon's tail. Like, here's this person driving you insane who's enjoying driving you insane and smiling at you the whole time. So it
was a jagged smile, same drawing. All right.
So it's very creepy in retrospect and very original, and it wasn't derivative.
Well, they renamed what they did. The only changes they made, they put a damn hat on him, and they named him Madcap. But the original concept was Happy, a demented happy face. And who got credit for creating this character back in '85 is Mark Gruenwald, who was the writer, and Paul Neary, the artist.
And if you want to hold this up, because like I said, it's ridiculous. Here's this little triangle mouth and triangle eyes, yellow-faced character.
I still have my art
that they put a hat on.
Yeah,
and that's it.
And they would show him without the hat a lot.
That's Chance's character, and I remember him showing me the original artwork before he sent it in. I remember.
I'm holding some up now of my art for the Facebook Live.
I remember him calling me up, going, "Oh my God, they stole my character," and coming over to his house. And seeing this, and Chance and I were down in the kitchen telling his mom, they stole this character. And of course I think she said something like, well, if they did, you should be flattered, son.
That's right. That was her stance, and that's her stance to this day. And that's mom. That's fine. But go ahead.
The thing that I find like really just awful about this is Marvel. They want to tap in on this like tagline, with great power comes great responsibility. So here's this company with great power. Chance was 14. It's not like this was going to be some heated legal battle over character rights. And granted, the gentlemen that are given the credit for this character added some elements to it. Great, but the original intellectual property was Chance's. And at the time, I mean, they could have sent Chance like a signed Stan Lee autograph, and he would have been like, "Yeah, here, take my character."
I would have been fine.
I am not worthy. I am not worthy. But the fact that this was just done under the table with no nod given to the fact that Chance is the creator of this character. To me, is just foul.
Well, yeah, my mom, I want to say, was the best comic mom ever. She painted a Hobgoblin, Green Goblin, and Amazing Spider-Man on my wall, as you remember, years ago. Will you hold that up, Al, for the Facebook Live viewers? Look at that art. That is good art, and I miss that wall. That's in East Cobb County, Marietta, our old
Odin's
house.
Way.
Odin's Way, and yeah, I had letters published, but yeah, I mean, it still stings, and I let it go. But then, Danny, you will text me, hey, I saw a Madcap coffee mug. I saw a Madcap poster. And
it's coming. I mean, there is.
You get more mad than I do.
There is a tie-in now. I mean, everybody knows the success of the Deadpool movies and the Deadpool character,
and he's become a Deadpool villain.
Yeah, no, I mean, there is now a direct tie-in between this character and Deadpool, and I think that somebody out there that worked at Marvel during this 1984, 1985 period has got to know what happened to the submissions that came into Marvel from this How to Draw Marvel the Comics Way, and there's got to be a tie-in where this stuff went across
the Marvel tryout book.
Yeah, tryout book that went across this Grunwald's desk,
and he died in 1996 apparently.
So somebody out there knows more about this story. I just know that it's 100% true because I witnessed it,
and our caller too. He witnessed it too. You saw me on the drawing board, and you were there when I submitted it when the comic came out.
Get Jeff Logan. Get Jeff to.
Let me.
All right, let's get him on the phone. We only got a few minutes left. Here, here we go.
Cut.
Battery 80%.
You got a cut? Yeah.
Connected to you.
I stopped the podcast.
Thank you. What's his number?
We've got an hour.
He just texted me. Is it recording?
No,
okay.
Stop.
Yeah, no. We got 10 minutes because he's got to leave, but we can talk a little bit after time.
No, that's cool, dude.
No, hold on. Let's see.
Hurry up, give me his number.
Now he's saying I got to jump in the shower to get ready for early dinner. I don't think. Let me try to call him.
But that's not going to work.
Hold on. Let me try to call him, and then I'll have him call your number. Is what I'll do.
Yeah, we just call it, ask him a few questions, and we're done with it.
Right. He told me he's going to 6 o'clock movie.
Well, yeah, but he's got time.
All right. Yeah, this won't be long. And you got the questions there. I'm calling him.
Time after time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think try to bite off too much with all the comics
and the movies. It's my fault. I'm talking about Twilight Zone.
Let Tom ask him the questions.
Well, you ask him, Al.
Yeah, you haven't said hardly anything.
You ask him.
I'm fine.
Well, here are the questions, Al.
He's probably in the shower.
We'll have to come back and say, well, he's not answering.
Well, you could cut that out where I talk about the phone call. Damn. Oh.
What, at the end?
I was late.
Oh, excuse me. What time was he expecting a call?
3 o'clock.
Like 3:45. He did tell me he's going to movie at 6.
Why the hell didn't we just call him out of the gate and he could have put that into the podcast.
I know. I should have done that. You're right. We could have edited it in. I screwed up.
Well, you can. We'll leave it in. You can.
So that's what he said.
No, I believe you.
You can mention it and say we'll talk to him next time.
Okay. Well, hang on to those questions in case he does call. I'll leave my phone here.
All right, we've gone an hour and 18 minutes.
Good. It doesn't matter about time. You can use the headphones.
You finish it up.
Chance. Tom has to leave it.
Yeah, I got to leave it.
Did we do justice to the Madcap? Do you think we covered everything? I mean,
I don't know.
Is there anything else we should? This is my golden opportunity.
Well, no, I'd like to
talk about how it's ripped off.
Like the Fester lives, and that's in the yearbook and stuff. But I think we bit off a little bit more than you could chew for this.
And I have all the, I only brought one little piece of art that I did back then, but I've got it all at home. I was going to bring that.
I would just sort of wrap this up for now.
Okay.
Maybe
we can always do it again.
Yeah, maybe say like, okay, hey, we can't get our caller on the phone right now, Jeff Logan. We'll touch on this subject again.
I wanted to talk about it first before the Newsweek, but it is what it is. So we're good.
All right, let's record, please.
All right. So how are we going to resume?
I'll take care of it.
Wait a minute. All right. Stand by. Anytime.
Well, guess what happened? We called and he called and we called and we called. And sadly, we were supposed to call him earlier in the day, but we got so rolling on our topic that we neglected to call him early enough. So he's not available right now. So we'll have to revisit that
next time,
brief phone interview
time.
next time when we get together, and we'll do it as a recap type of thing from the show. Well, listen, it's been great having you here.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you
Part,
very
part,
much.
part
Thank
of
you very
the
much. And can we talk real quick about, as we wrap up, the collecting and business side of comic books? I just want to mention that there's a grading company, actually several, and the way you can turn over your comics if you're interested in selling them. And I love the art. You know, I'm not in this to make money or invest, but I've invested a hell of a lot of money in my collection because I love it. I'm passionate about it. But some comics are actually graded and encased in a big plastic slab, and it's airtight and it's preserved for all time. And I want to say, someone robbed me earlier this year and robbed this very book. I'll hold that up to the Facebook Live camera if you don't mind. And I was lucky. I recovered my comic.
someone broke into your house.
Someone broke in, and you know what they did? They made themselves at home, and luckily I went home for lunch and startled him. He had a suitcase full of my books, my own suitcase full of the first Morbius appearance, and this is Fantastic Four #7, graded 5.5.
Well, do you think he knew what to look for then?
No, I don't. I do not. I think it was just random.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, who knows? But I did. I can't go there because it's hearsay, and I don't want to.
But he took the time to use the bathroom.
He took
a poop in your
don't say that.
He did.
He took
in
a
my
poop in your
toilet
toilet.
and didn't flush, and he ate my burrito. At the
God.
radio station.
Wait, you sure it wasn't the other way around? He ate the burrito.
No, really, there you go. But Moe's, which is a Southwestern restaurant, had for Taco Day, Burrito Day, brought burritos to our station, one of those big, thick burritos. And this guy helped himself to my burrito.
Wow.
I had in the fridge,
That's
ate
nerve.
3/4 of it, and threw the rest in my trash. Drank one of my Pepsis, used my toilet. He thought he'd have all day. He must have seen me go to work. But I came home for lunch, startled him, thank goodness. But he made away with this Fantastic Four.
So did you see
7.
him? Did you see
Yes,
him?
I saw someone posing as a worker in the neighborhood. And I can't swear it was him, but it must have been him. And the other thing is he sold it to a local comic shop that also sells CDs and movies in the Decatur, Georgia area. I live in Cobb County, Georgia, near the Atlanta Braves Stadium. And luckily I had called various comic shops and said, hey, be on the lookout for Fantastic Four #7, rated 5.5. And fortunately, this place I've spent thousands of dollars with over the years called me. They did the right thing. And I recovered my comic. And to my knowledge, that's the only, he must have heard me trying to get in the front door, and he jumped out one of my windows and got away. And I'm lucky I wasn't shot. You know, because I mean, obviously this happened, but thank God he didn't get that suitcase, because you wouldn't believe he had some books that weren't worth anything and some that were worth a gold mine. And I would have been devastated had I been robbed to the extent he was trying to rob
Was that
me.
before the vandalization of that comic that we talked about a few moments
About
ago?
29 years after, yeah.
Oh, 20. Oh, okay.
This happened this year.
Oh,
This
okay.
This happened in
Wow. Well, that's what you get for not having a Ring camera or something in your
April
house.
of this year, early April 2019.
Right.
Now I got cameras and I
good.
bought protection. I've got motion detection. I have cameras, and I've got the app and all that stuff. And
Dang it, now that means we can't go over there.
I got
and
weapons
binge.
now. And
Well, now I know.
bring it on! You want to come back, get a piece of me? You
Now
don't leave in a box. I'm telling you.
I now know how old Chance is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
I've
went off
did-
the show. He's
I
I
figured
do,
that
I do
out.
acting work on the side, and so I try to keep my age. It sounds so vain and girly, you know, but now you know.
He's
Because I brought
58
my
years
high
old.
school yearbooks thanks to Dan.
He's 58.
No, anyway. But there's
Almost
so
got
much
him to
more
say
to
it.
cover that we'll cover another time, but I just want to get out there. It's true about Madcap. I created Madcap, I named him Happy.
Yeah.
Marvel took it back in late 1984 when I submitted it. But
Well,
I've had letters printed,
well,
and Jeff,
Well, I'm glad they gave it a different name.
we'll get him on the phone. He's written and had letters published as well.
Okay.
And he's also a buddy of ours from the comic shows. But I want to say after Black Friday, comic shops have big sales. So be looking out. If there's comic collectors out there
we
listening.
have to go. But anyway, I want to thank Danny for coming by.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I want you to come back.
Yeah, come
And
back.
check out this music we're going to play out too. This is by Pete Roglio, who scored the Fugitive theme, and this was from an episode of Lost in Space called The Promised Planet, the Space Hippies.
Ooh, and folks, we'll be back. We'll be back next time with another Pod Blast. We're going to try to talk about the Paul Hennings collection of shows that he did in the 60s with Petticoat Junction, Green Acres, and some of the other wonderful shows. And maybe we'll get some cool clips, etc.
So until next time.
Until next time.
Until next time.
So ahead, Chance.
Thank you, Danny.
Thanks,
Means a lot.
Danny.
You drove all the way from Athens, Georgia.
All right, we'll see you next time
Louisville.
on the podcast, the Pod Blast of the podcast.
And thanks to our Facebook Live viewers. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your day. did we cover enough there? See, we could.
No,
this is something
well,
we
no,
could
I
go
mean,
on and
yeah,
on.
I was-
like we did two horror movie podcasts. Damn, I didn't talk about my evidence of my character and God, my drawings I have. And
I forgot to say one
didn't
thing
get
at the very end. Just record me saying one thing.
okay. Say
At the very end,
yeah.
at the end of the theme song.
What do you need to do?
I just want to record my thing. I say.
Yeah. He wants to sign off with something. So say, actually, we're back, or say something like that, whatever you
Well, I
want
thought we
to say.
said goodbye.
Yeah, but he could say, actually, I lied. I'm back with this or whatever.
Disclaimer. I always put at the end.
Oh, about the guests. Live viewers, have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your day.
For myself. There I am.
Right. Stand by.
Is this a live edit?
I'm just going to tag it at the end, but I'll tighten it up. Go ahead.
Guests of the Nostalgic Podblast stay at the newly renovated Budget Motel in beautiful Chattanooga, Tennessee. Come visit Rock City today.
I love it.
And I also want to talk about the most successful TV show based on comic books, and I think Smallville is one of them. And Supergirl that's on now on Warner Brothers. CW.
I'm going to get Susan to say that so we can just have it
Yeah.
as a clip.
It's like I said, Chance.
There's so much to cover.
I think trying to cover that.
I got to roll, brother.
Yeah,
All
man.
right, I'm gonna walk out with you.
Al, I'll see you.
I'll be talking to you.
Thanks, guys. Hope it was a good one. I mean, you did great. I think I sucked, but
I think
because I was all over the
think
damn
trying to
place. I
cover
tried to go in order.
all of those TV
What? Hey,
shows.
Chad.
Yes, I'm right here.
Is this number 9 or 10?
This is 10. Podblast 10.
10.
Double digits, baby.
Let's see.
And you can label it. And I brought my stick drive for past shows.
I'll tell you,
I call it comic books from page to TV to the silver screen.
I screwed up the Facebook Live at the beginning. For about the first 6 minutes, I forgot to plug the microphones in.
That's okay.
So you
we
can
didn't have
hear
any
it.
clips. Yeah, but you did plug it in.
Well, I did plug it in about
Did you
6
stop the
minutes
video? Is it
afterwards.
still rolling? I don't care if it's still rolling.
No, I'll stop in a minute. I'm
But,
just saving the show.
You label it when you can. I wrote it down here on my notes. Comic
I labeled it
books.
Podblast 9.
Podblast 10.
I mean 10.
Yeah, but I mean, you know how you usually, when you put it on SoundCloud and all the other
How do you
hosting
want
sites,
me to label
I wanted to say comic books. It's short. Comic books from page. Here, I wrote it here. You got to post it.
Write it on this, on
All
my
right,
question.
give me a pen if you don't mind. Too bad we couldn't have
You
Jeff
got a
on the
bunch of
line.
pens
It's my
over
fault.
there.
All right. Comic books from your TV. Wait, comic books from
That's how you, I'll say
comic
Podblast
books.
10. And then,
Podblast 10, right. And then you'll write Podblast 10. Gotta feed Sunny soon. Comic books from the page. And by the way, I got that another copy of Spider-Man 14 that was destroyed by the vandalism. And I held it up for the Facebook Live viewers, but I forgot to mention it on the show itself. Oh, well. That's right.
Podblast 10.
Podblast 10. Comic books from the page to your TV to the silver screen.
That's a long title.
Well, edit it down, but I wanted to, or just say comic books from the
Just write
page
down
to
what
the
you
silver
wanted to
screen.
say. Just
Well,
what-
that's it. I mean, I didn't know you. It's like Twitter. You have only so many characters to work
Well,
with.
it's not so much. Yeah,
There
there's
you
only
go.
so much space. You
Well,
can't, you know.
Look here. See the top of the page? That's what I would like it to say, but you can take out the TV part if you just want to say comic books from page to TV to movies.
Comic books
Or-
from
I like
what?
silver screen. From the page. From the page, meaning written page,
Why
to
don't we
your
just
TV.
forget the
and
TV
silver-
and put
all right.
the silver screen?
From the page to the silver screen. And we didn't even talk about the Marvel movies. We touched on it, but there's so
Well-
much to cover. We didn't talk about the success 2008's Iron Man. We